They were warriors in a war that wasn't just fought on battlefields. They weren't carrying rifles, but they were armed with something just as powerful. Millions of messages from home, the lifeline for soldiers holding the line against tyranny. But this isn't just about delivering mail. This is about forgotten soldiers in their own forgotten war, fighting battles the history books choose to ignore. This is the story of the 688, the only all-black, all-female unit deployed overseas in World War II. But first, if you enjoy stories they try to erase but we're committed to tell, you're at the right place. That's what we do here. He Story drops 2 new episodes a week, so if this is important to you, like and subscribe. It's 1945. London is a graveyard of bombed-out buildings. The sky is black with smoke. Sirens wail in the distance. The world is at war with a tyrant who has already swallowed half of Europe. Hitler's forces are relentless. Entire families wiped out. Cities burned off the map. His air force has spent months turning England into rubble, pounding it with air raids day and night. And even though Allied forces are fighting back, the war is far from over. On the front lines, soldiers fight in trenches, knee-deep in freezing mud, their nerves shot from the constant shelling. But what's worse? The silence, the waiting, the unbearable loneliness. Many of these soldiers haven't heard from home in months, some in years. Letters, messages from wives, mothers, children sit piled up, undelivered in massive rat-infested warehouses. The morale of the troops is crumbling. And that's when the Army calls in the 688. They weren't supposed to be here. The Army never planned to send them. But after pressure from civil rights leaders like Mary Beth Methune and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, the U.S. military finally authorized an all-black, all-female unit to serve overseas. The 688th Central Postal Directory Battalion was their official name, but the women called themselves the 688. Leading them was Major Charity Adams, a woman who had already shattered barriers as the first black woman commissioned in the Women's Army Corps. She was tough, smart, and unwilling to be pushed aside. She knew what was coming. She had been dealing with racism since the day she put on the uniform. Before they ever set foot in Europe, the women of the 688 trained at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Conditions were brutal. Segregation was enforced at every level. White officers doubted them. Some actively worked against them. They weren't allowed in certain clubs or restaurants. They weren't given proper facilities. And when 3 black WACs were beaten in Kentucky for sitting in a whites-only waiting room, the Army court-martialed them, not their attackers. The message was clear. Even as they fought for their country refused to fight for them. February 3rd, 1945, the Atlantic Ocean. The SS Île-de-France is cutting through icy waters. Below deck, 855 black women sit in silence, knowing they are heading into the unknown. Somewhere beneath them, German U-boats lurk, hunting American supply ships. If they're hit, they'll sink, and no one will come for them. A young soldier, Anna Mae Robertson, grips the side of her cot, eyes locked on the ceiling. She enlisted at 19, hoping to serve her country and build a future. She never expected to be here in the middle of a war zone, given an impossible mission. They land in Scotland, take a train to England, and finally arrive at a massive warehouse in Birmingham. When they open the doors, the smell is overwhelming. Mold, rot, dead rats. The mail is stacked to the ceiling, 17 million pieces of undelivered letters and packages. Some of those packages contain food that has long since rotted. The Army had given them 6 months to clear it all. Major Charity Adams steps forward. Ladies, we're going to do it in 3. The work is grueling. They operate in shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 8-hour rotations, no breaks. They create an entirely new tracking system, something no one in the Army had ever thought of. They match addresses, reorganize thousands of military rosters, and memorize names. Some letters are addressed only to Johnny somewhere in France. Somehow they find him. And then one day, Anna Mae pulls a letter from the pile. It has no return address, no regiment number, only a desperate plea written on the envelope. Please, Get this to my son before it's too late. She doesn't know who wrote it. She doesn't know who it belongs to, but she knows what it means. Every single letter in this warehouse is someone's last hope. Meanwhile, racism follows them wherever they go. One day, a white general storms into the warehouse and tells Major Adams that a white officer will be sent to oversee her unit. She stands firm. Over my dead body, sir. The general backs down. The women keep working. And they don't just succeed. They shatter expectations. In just 3 months, they clear the backlog in England. The army is stunned, but instead of praise, they get another impossible assignment. They are shipped to France, where another massive backlog awaits. Again, they do the impossible. Again, they clear the backlog in record time. But war does not let them go unscathed. In Rayon, France, July 8, 1945, 3 members of the 688 are being transported in a military truck when it loses control. The vehicle flips. Private Mary Bankston and Private Mary Barlow die on impact. Sergeant Dolores Brown clings to life for 5 days before she too succumbs to her injuries. The Army doesn't hold a grand funeral. There is no nationwide recognition. They are buried in France, forgotten. By March 1946, the war is over and the 688 is disbanded. The women return home. Some stay in the military. Some go back to civilian life. But no one talks about what they did. History moves on. For decades, the 688 is erased until 2022, nearly 80 years later. The 688 finally gets its due. President Joe Biden signs a bill awarding the Congressional Gold Medal to the entire battalion. Only 4 members are still alive to witness it. One of them, Anna Mae Robertson. At 100 years old, she finally gets the recognition she never asked for, but she always deserved. She had spent decades watching war movies, watching history rewritten, watching the world forget. But now at last, her story and the story of her sisters in arms was being told. And then there's that letter, the one that had no address, the one that had haunted her for weeks. She actually spent months trying to find the name. And one day she did. The soldier was alive. That letter was delivered. She never knew what it said, but she knew that it mattered. The 688 was never just sorting mail. They were saving souls. They were warriors. History won't let history ever forget them.
New episodes drop twice a week only on Heath's Story. If you'd like to support the channel, subscribe now, leave a like and a comment, and become a member by clicking below.